Now, Nneka, hello.
Hello there, Michael Johnson.
How are you doing today?
I am good, excited about this topic.
Woo wee. Now listen, we talked about this for about over a week, but we've been talking back and forth about this specific person, right? And kind of sort of around this topic, but I was kind of surprised that you was like, okay, let's go for it because I know how you feel. So I was like, it's gonna be a tough one trying to settle.
Oh,
So
it
on
is.
tonight, here's what we're talking about: chasing success, losing love. I thought I had time, and then love passed me by. And so this is based on something you and I both saw online. I shared it with you because I
Yeah.
saw it, and this is Claudia Jordan, and
hmm
she was on the Shade Rooms podcast. And basically, she was talking about being a 52 and single and what that looks like now. But what was so interesting to me was, Nneka, how she kind of actually walked her life back a little bit. And so she looked at herself from her 20s, kind of through her 30s, 40s, and now in her 50s. And they kind of asked her some very interesting questions about these different stages of life, which we're going to get into now, or we're going to get into tonight. And I just thought it was super interesting. I said, let me just talk to Nneka about this because there was a gentleman, God rest his soul, Mr. Kevin Samuels. He touched on this subject and he actually said, he spoke to this in particular. And if I were to say this guy's a prophet from the grave, maybe, because now we're hearing women come out and say what he actually said. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you and we can kind of get this thing kind of cracking and kind of move into it.
But you know what? Although I respect some of the things that he said, I just don't feel like there was layers to what he. I mean, I think sometimes people ignore the layers to what women say about being in a committed relationship. Have they missed that period of time to settle down and have children? I feel historically in the past women had to, because they weren't earning high paychecks, they weren't earning seven figures, and so they relied a lot on a man to provide. And
Mm-hmm.
so in this new day and age, women have high earning potential, and the things that, so we're not necessarily following gender roles like we were in the past. And so
Yep.
women have this earning potential where they can take care of themselves. And I think in some ways women are fearful of being, you have all this money now, you're the CEO, or you're this actor or actress or what have you. You fear someone coming in and taking that away from you. And so I think
Mm.
fear sets in, or someone slowing you down because, okay, now you want kids and I'm on this track of, really, elevating in my career. And I may not want that right now. I want to continue to elevate in my career. If you're okay with me elevating in my career and not having kids and me not cooking your meals and things like that, because some men are traditional. They
Yeah.
want a woman that's going to stay home and cook the meals. And if you're not necessarily ready to do that, then you say to yourself, I'm going to pause on being in a relationship.
Yeah. Just real quick, since we're here at this place, listen, guys, we really want to hear from you. So jump in the comments. We would love to hear from you. This is all about you guys. And so we really want to hear from you. With that said, Nneka, a lot of men, and this is what women I don't think understood about Kevin Samuels, is that he was not speaking from a woman's standpoint. He's speaking from what men think. And I think a lot of times women would confuse or conflate things, right? They wouldn't understand that he was literally giving you guys the cheat sheet or the cheat code as to how men think. So when he spoke, he was really speaking for a lot of men, especially men who feel disenfranchised, men who feel like women who, wouldn't pay them or give them the time of day earlier on in life probably would in their 30s and 40s because they started making money. They, had these things they could offer women, but as an earlier age, they couldn't do it. But he was literally giving you guys the cheat code. And every time I would hear him speaking, I would hear women get upset. I couldn't understand why until you and I spoke about this. And one of the things that you and I talked about, and I was like, keep in mind, this was purely or from, it was entertainment first. So it wasn't like,
Yeah.
he was telling you to come and get all of this therapy from him because he wasn't a therapist. But what
Right.
he was saying was, look, If you want to know how men think, this is how we think. This is the honest to God truth. This is the gospel. And so you may not like how we think, but if I tell you this is how a man thinks, don't come back and say that's not what men think. You're not a man. How can you say as a woman? Yeah. It would be like me saying, Nneka, when when you're going through your menstrual cycle, you need to do this, you do this. I might have some pointers, but I can't go through all of the, the little things, the nuances about that, right?
Right.
And so in any event, we come back to tonight's subject. So Claudia Jordan was on the Shade Room, right? And she was just talking about, there was this one sweet, juicy spot in that interview where she was talking about the fact that, and I'm gonna ask you because it sounded like she walked it back a little bit, but what she was saying was she regretted the fact that she did not probably settle down earlier on as a younger woman. And she said the reason why she didn't, or reasons why she had not settled down, was because she was chasing her career and some other things. But she said now at 52, not that she was lonely, because she said she wasn't lonely. She was probably alone, but not lonely. And that may have been by choice. But what we discovered is the type of men that she was interested in then are no longer interested in her. And so now she's finding out, oh my God, I'm gonna have to settle. I'm gonna have to do something as a younger woman I would never do. And that's to settle for someone. And she went as far as to say that she told her girlfriends, or her and her girlfriends were talking, and she was like, look, you may now have to look for a guy who's already been married, fresh out of divorce or out of divorce, or some of these other things, because that's just more realistic. Otherwise, you're going to wind up with God knows what. And I thought that was interesting because Kevin Samuels literally said all of this. And in fact, he pushed the envelope a little further. And this is where you and I kind of, again, was like,
right.
So he said that women who were, and I don't agree with this. He said women who were 35 were basically leftovers, and that they were what's considered, I think, after 30 in the danger zone, meaning that once you hit 30, it's going to be much tougher for you to attract the attention of what he called a high value man. And we won't get into a high value man on tonight because that's too much to deal with. But he was saying that there's so many women who want this type of man that you have to fit a specific look, a type, for you to be able to attract the attention of these particular men. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do it. And he had all this criterion for how you do it, how you didn't do it. But Claudia, at one point, probably did fit that mold. Actually, I'm going to go as far as to say she did. She would have fit that mold. And so now at 52, she's saying, and this is what it sounded like to me, and this is where I want you to chime in. I really want you to chime in heavy. She sounded regretful, but she was trying to walk it back like, I'm not that regretful. Da, 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 da. But when you listen to her and watched her, because I watched the video probably 40 times because I was looking at her body language. I was looking at what her body was saying and what her mouth was saying, right? And her body was saying, I'm in trouble. Like, I'm in trouble. And she literally went as far as to say, I want some help. I would love to now have a man come along and be my partner to kind of help me take this load off. I'm out here doing all this stuff by myself, and I'm tired. I don't want to do it by myself anymore. And Kevin Samuels actually said this about women like this. He said they normally have cats or dogs. And what did she say? Her and her cat. And so I thought about that, and I was like, oh my God. So I turned it over to you and let you jump in here. We're gonna go back and forth. I can already see it.
Yeah, you can see it. But you know what? I think there's so much more to explore when you think about women who have potentially encountered divorced parents or daddy issues, daddy who aren't emotionally available. So it's fear conditioned by what you've seen. Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of times people are not necessarily talking about that. They're just talking about the surface stuff because there are some real fears around. Women will say, oh, I want a good man. I want a good man. I remember, if I can just do a little self-disclosure,
sure.
Meeting my husband I met him at I was 31. I'm 54 now. I met him at 31. And I may have expressed this already, but I had never met anybody like him before. He was very just, together and knew what he wanted. And that was me, told me he loved me. And I had experienced that before. So I ran a lot because it was anxiety. It kind of went back to my daddy issues. It went back to having divorced parents, thinking that, at some point this is not going to work. And so it's that internal dialogue that you have that some women aren't going to talk about, that when you pray for this good man, when you get them, that thing that rises up in you that you don't know is there until you get into a relationship. It's that fear of, oh my gosh, I don't want to repeat a divorce. Oh my gosh, is he going to leave? So you have all that anxiety that's controlling your decision. And some women aren't talking about that. So some men, well, I mean, the one guy that was that was kind of presenting Claudia and the other young lady, he was hard on her. Because I'm thinking, dude, you don't know the inner workings of what a woman may go through at the time she should be trying to get in a relationship and have children. There's a whole level of anxiety for some women. I had a lot of anxiety around being in a relationship. But the good thing for me is I had my faith kind of in therapy and working through that internal dialogue that said, because I could have been Claudia, because I was in grad school when I met my husband. And I mean, I was doing good. So I could have been that Claudia, but I had to press through it because in my mind, I'm thinking, I am not letting this good man get away. And I love him. And I'm not going to, because I knew what it was. It was fear. So some people would just say, oh, it's my career. I remember people saying, Nneka, when you get married? When you getting married? I'm like, well, I'm in school right now. I'm not really looking to get married right now. Well, your clock is ticking. I remember my aunts, they would say this all the time. They would be on me about getting married. And I'm like, I want to finish school. I want to finish school. I want to do this. I want to do that. And you have the older people that are pushing us to do it before we're actually ready. So for me, it was the anxiety. And I think a lot of women probably can relate to that.
Yeah. Kenneth says, hey, thank you so much, Kenneth, for chiming in. And guys, please chime in, which we really want to hear from you. He says, Kenneth Madison, he says, I have discovered that the relationship between men and women is more transactional, not really about love. And this is someplace I was going to go with this, because although you and I are both married, but we both have friends who are single. Right. And all of the friends who I have that are single, they all tell me the same thing, especially men. They all say the same thing. Women, to a degree, say it. They don't come out like right out, and say it, but their language and, what they do says it, is that it's the relationship is transactional. So it's, I'm going to provide you this and you give me this, but love is never really a part of the transaction, right? It's almost service-based, right? I don't want to get into what type of service, but it really almost is service-based, like where you have, especially as younger women, you see this a lot. They want men, or at least they say they want a good man, but it sounds like to us as men, a lot of times, when you say you want a good man, you want a man that's going to take care of all your bills, take care of your life, take care of your lifestyle and all this. And for a lot of young men, especially, they can't afford to do that. I'm in my 50s, right? So I can, and I got friends who are in the 50s, and they can afford probably to buy, women this, take them on these trips here and there. But these younger guys, unless they're doing something illegal, maybe, or unless they just have these high-paying jobs, which a lot of younger men don't have these higher-paying jobs, they can't afford this. And so they wind up dealing with older men like myself who can afford that type of, double or dual lifestyle where they can take care of these younger people without young women. And they do it all, they buy the purses, the trips, so forth and so on. But it really is transactional, Kenneth, to what I've heard. I don't really hear people talking about love anymore. In fact, Claudia said the same thing, that love is really not even discussed, Nneka. That's not a thing. But what it looks like now is, as a younger woman, she never thought about love, but now she's older. And I just surmised that she's thinking about it now, because what do you do, Nneka? My wife and I talked about this, just jumping off subject, but it's related to this. If you get sick as a single woman, like you have some fibroids, you got to go have surgery.
Right.
If you have to have fibroid surgery, I noticed because my wife went through it, you're going to be down for a couple of weeks. That first week is going to be tough when you come home. Who helps you? If you have no kids, you have no husband, you have no boyfriend, nobody serious in your life, you don't have your parents or a brother or a sibling somewhere nearby, how then are you taken care of? Yeah. Right. Even as a man, and because we're going to talk about the man side of this, not tonight, but we're going to deal with this next week, the man side. But how do you deal with that? If you get sick, have something wrong with you, if you have, let's say you lose your job, right? What then happens to you? And I'm not saying men are only good for this, because we're not just good for that, but what do you do? And my wife has friends that they couldn't have this type of surgery or major surgeries because there's no one, Nneka, to help them. And I said to myself, it broke my heart to hear that these women didn't have someone that can come in and help them after this was, after a surgery or so forth and so on. It was just crazy to me to hear that that was the case. But she's now thinking about this. And really what it sounded like, Nneka, to me, is that she's worried about growing old and being alone. Oh. That's what it really sounded like to me. Like she was starting to realize, and it was clicking in her brain that, you know what? I made all this money. I've done all these different things. I've got my master's degree. I've got my PhD. I got this 6-figure job. I drive a Range Rover. I live in a 5,000 square foot house or even a mansion, Nneka. I'm doing all of these trips with my girlfriends, but I don't have a man, which is really what I want, but I'm not saying it. I really want a man I can share this lifestyle with. And I'm not sure now that's going to happen for me, at least not the type of man I want that I probably could have had when I was younger.
Yeah, but the flip side of that, Michael, it's not that easy. I mean, I think, men, I mean, if
you don't think so?
No, if you're an old-fashioned woman, you want someone to initiate. I deal with old school women, right?
Okay. Well, let's talk. So I didn't mean to cut you off, but let's talk about old school women versus new school women, because you're right. There's a difference. But let's talk about the two of them.
Yeah, old school women, they're not out there throwing themselves at nobody. They want to be.
Well, wait a minute, Nneka. Hold on.
What?
You've been around us in the Silver Fox Squad, so I'm gonna let you kind of think about that for 1 second to see if you want to reframe that a little bit.
Well, just because they got age behind them, they ain't got nothing to do with their values and how they approach being.
Agreed.
I think it has to do with your personality, and I don't know I'm not saying there's anything wrong with women being the initiator. It's just I can't pull that off. I could not have pulled that off with Fred. So, because that's just not who I am. So I think women get to a certain age and they like, I'm gonna shoot my shot. Look, I'm tired of being single. I guess you get to that age, you get a little more tough and you have some courage to kind of pursue people. But the old school women that I know, and I have girlfriends who have never been married, they will never initiate. They don't get that. I mean, yes, they want to be in relationships, but they're not looking to initiate any type of connection with somebody. They may offer up a smile to say, okay, green light, you can come talk to me. But in terms of them going to approach somebody, I would not have done that.
I think now, so let me just say this, Purdy Birdie said historically yet. Let me just say this to women. If you're in your 40s and 50s and 60s even, and maybe 70s, because women, of course, outlive men, I don't see it as a bad thing to approach a man if you're interested. And I'm going to tell you why. Okay. Again, being a member of the Silver Fox Squad, I get a chance to see these women. And you got to figure, if you're a woman if you're a woman, a pretty woman, you got all this stuff going on, you want a specific type of man. Well, guess what? You're not the only one who wants that type of man. So there's a bit of competition. And so how is a man supposed to notice you amongst all this competition if you don't say something? Now, I'm not talking about doing something crazy, but you may have to give up some of your old school ways so that you're noticed. Because the C is, Nneka, I'm just trying to tell you. So, Nneka, you've been there with us. I'm going to reframe this for you. Okay. You've been there with us. So you've seen it, and you've seen how these women, some women, they're gentle in their approach. Some women, not so much, right? Because they're like, I need to get your attention. And I don't know how else to do it, but I'm going to do this. And hopefully it works, whatever the case is. But I'm just saying, I don't think it's anything wrong. I think you're going to have to do something more than what you did when you were old school. Because think about it, Nneka, we're in our 50s. I'm 56. We're not our parents 56. We're not our grandparents 56. This is new. Like we're performing, or we're at a stage at being 56 now where we're almost like 40-year-olds, right? The things that we're doing, the youth, the technology has helped us, right? So we can do a lot more than our parents did. We're taking these trips, these elaborate trips, and not to mention, now we have a lot more resources than our parents did. So it allows us to do a whole lot more. And so being 56 now is not like what it was back then, or even 50 or even 40, 10 years ago. right? Definitely not 20 or 30 years ago. It's quite different. And so all I'm saying is, with the times, women are going to have to, and I think most women understand this in their 40s, 50s, and 60s now. You're going to have to be not aggressive, but you're going to have to make sure men know that you're available. You're going to have to do something to put yourself out there. I don't know if a smile is going to do it or not. It might be you walk over and approach a man. It might be like, hey, how are you doing? And I know, Nneka, you're saying that, but think about it. You've been married for over 20 years. Both of us have been out of the game for a long time, right? I only get a chance to see it because of the Silver Fox Squad. So I get a chance to see.
I know you're not part of the pool.
Yeah, and you get a chance to see it too because you've been around us, right? Yeah. So I think women got to do a little bit more, but as it pertains, because I want to keep the conversation moving where we were, as it pertains to women probably in their late 40s, I want to say maybe even their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, you know, I think women, this is just a bit of advice from me watching from the outside looking in, that you're going to have to change some of the thinking, or you might want to change some of the thinking that you've had about how you deal with men, because the competition is global. It's not like Susie down the street or Nicole around the corner. Now you're talking about Nyoko. You're talking about some Russian woman, some woman from Vietnam, from Thailand, you know, from all these other countries who might be trying to actually gain the attention of a man that you want to pursue. Social media has changed all that. And in fact, Claudia said now it's like a meat market that you can get to, and you can easily and more readily get to it because of social media.
But you know what, Michael, realistically, okay, can you really appreciate a woman that will come up I mean, because the thing is, if a man is interested in a woman and they see some woman that have gotten their attention, they're going to approach that woman. I'm of the belief, if men are hunters. If they see something that they want, they will pursue it. If they don't, they won't. And so most men, are the Silver Fox Squad, the ones that are single, are they out there saying, oh, I'm trying to find the one, in these crowd of people, I hope I find the one? I don't believe the single one saying that.
No. In fact, it's the exact opposite. This is why I was saying it from experience, knowing this, that the guys, you know, shout out to my Silver Fox Squad brothers. We don't have to do anything, Nneka. It's a lot of attention, right? It's a lot of women, and you've seen this. Yeah. They're making it known. And like I said, I don't think any of the guys, I'm not speaking for them, but I don't think this is the case, that they would be upset if a woman approached them and said, hey, how you doing? My name is so-and-so, as opposed to a woman looking their way and kind of smiling. I don't think one way or the other is going to make a difference. Maybe, because I'm going to tell you, because you've seen this, it's a sea of women or a crowd. It's 300, 200, 400, 500,000 women. I don't know if, you know, one of these guys, their attention is going to be caught because somebody smiled or winked at them. It's hard to see. You look at a general direction, you will see like 1,000 people.
But like I said, I really believe that a man would have to be looking for a relationship. And how many men are out there saying, when you ask a man what's important to him, most men are not going to say, oh, a relationship, I just want to be in a loving relationship. Most men aren't saying that. They're saying they want to be successful. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, they're pursuing success. And I feel like most men are not going to pursue a relationship if they cannot be successful at it. Like, who wants to pursue something and fail at it? So I don't feel like that's like, even with women who are still single today, a lot of them aren't necessarily pursuing, because maybe at the time she didn't feel like, sometimes people were so singularly focused on our career. So there's no balance to actually be good at anything else other than that career. So I've been looking at, like, well, I know we're talking about men later, so I won't go too deep into that. But I just feel like people don't pursue things that they can't be successful at. And if you're successful in your career, that's where your focus is. You're singularly focused on your career, because maybe some women at that stage, at 27, in my 20s, I would not have been a good person to be in a relationship with. I would not have been. And I can admit that. And I'm just wondering how many people are actually admitting that. And I think sometimes people would just say, I'm just into my career. I'm into my career. But how many of us are really being honest with ourselves? Because I did not get in a relationship to be divorced. I'm like going the distance. I want to death do us part. And so, but how many people are saying that? They're saying, okay, if it don't work, I just get divorced. I'm not saying that. No, we going to fight through it. Now
But you know what, Nneka, though?
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest with you. Some people, they may not say what you just said in terms of like, all right, we're going to go through, we're going to fight through, we're not getting divorced, or we are, I'll just get divorced. Mm-hmm. They may not say that, but a lot of people are doing that. I'm also an ordained reverend, right? So I see people who get married and they don't last 2 years because they've said it's not willing to fight for it. You and I know that it's different because when you get married, that relationship is worth fighting for. In fact, it's worth dying for, right? I'll even go that far and say that. Absolutely. But there are a lot of people, Nneka, right now, men and women, who don't believe that idea. They're just like, I'll just trade it in and get another one, right? I'll just get it annulled. It's not like that big of a deal. Let me just get to Purdy Birdie. She says this. She says, I've heard many more younger men say to her, the Me Too movement made them not want it. And this is true. Made them not want to approach women as much. Yet women don't want to be seen as desperate. What is a good way to approach? This is 100% true. I know a lot of men, Nneka, they will not say anything to a woman because you don't know what the motive is, especially if you're a man of means, because lawsuits or just a lot of litigious people out there, many people who want to sue you. And you don't know if a woman is trying to pursue you for your resources or pursue you for you. You see a lot of times when women don't make these false claims about, this man touched me or he did this, that, and the other. And I don't want to say a lot because that's not the right way to characterize this, but you'll see where women will do this. They will literally do that. And because now it's become such a big deal, women can go to court and win and men just lose everything. It's not about money. It's about your reputation. It's about your name. Because guess what? If one woman accuses you of saying something crazy to them on your job, and Nneka, you're making 7 figures, 6 figures on your job. A woman says that you said something crazy, done. You're fired. And so a lot of men have taken the approach to be like, you know what? I'm not going to say a thing. I'm going to wait for them to say something to me. This is why I say also, I don't think it's a bad idea for women to actually say something to men if they're interested, because then, there's a anxiety level and anxiety that comes down some, because you're like, I don't have to worry about this woman, saying that I touched her inappropriately or I said something inappropriately. Like, and to me, Nneka, I'm old, right? I'm 56. When I was younger, you had to know how to talk to a woman to get a woman. Today, that's not the case. It's so transactional. If a woman thinks I have money, that's enough. Wow. That's enough. If I'm driving a great car, that's enough. If I'm wearing a fancy suit, that's enough. If I got this type of job, that's enough. When I was younger, I grew up in Washington, D.C. When I was younger, if you couldn't talk, Nneka, if your game wasn't tight talking to a woman, you couldn't get a woman. Even a guy who made a lot of money, a dude who could talk well, could come and get that woman, and it wouldn't be a whole big deal. Nowadays, it seems like anyway that it's changed. It's not that way. Let me just say this. Kenneth Madison said selfishness versus selflessness. And that's probably a good way to describe that.
Yeah. But I don't feel like we can, and I hear what you're saying. Like I said, men have a right to be cautious, just as women have a right to be cautious. But if we hang out in that negative headspace, we'll talk ourselves out of some really good relationships, because we go back to these cognitive distortions. It's like, like all women are this way, all men are this way. And that's not the case at all. And I feel like, we kind of, like we said last week, relationships are a risk. Yeah. So you got to be willing to take the risk and ask the right questions, not rush the relationship, and be quick to have somebody at your house. And but that's the thing, right, Nneka? When I talk to people, it's really transactional. I would love to hear from all the single folks in the audience. Kenneth Madison also said there's another issue is that women change their minds and don't tell the man. We can talk about that in a second, but it's interesting because it just does seem so. Even watching television is transactional. So, for instance, if you're watching any of the Housewives, any of those shows, it all seems to me, and I'll ask you, transactional. Like these women got into it to be with these men who had money to get their resources, and of course the men. This is notwithstanding, but the men wanted their bodies. And so it seems like that's the thing. It's like, okay, I'll give you my body for this Birkin bag. I'll give you my body for this car. I'll give you my body for this amount of money, this house, or this prestige, or
to be in your company, this, that, or the other. It just seems that it's that way until, and this is where the crazy part comes at, until something goes off in your head, which, you know, for a lot of women now I'm starting to see, and they get in their 50s and 60s and 70s and late 40s. You know what? I've obtained all these things, but I don't have anybody to share it with.
Yeah.
Right? Not the person I really want to share it with. Not just because these women, Florida Joy can get, and she said this, I can probably have any man I want, but will I get the one that, I mean, any man, but will I get the one I want? The one who's going to love me, take care of me for, you know, as opposed to some dude who's trying to get her for her resources, because she's a woman of resources, right?
Right. Yeah. Going back to what you said about the housewives, you know, you have these pool of women that are in the public eye. They don't represent all women. It's like a very small percentage. I feel like there are more women out there that and I know them where there would be an even exchange, there would be balance. And I feel like people take what they see on social media, you know, on these reality stores, like you say, entertainment, and think that the gospel, they make like that's the standard, that's what women are like, and we're not. And I feel like if you're going based on that, people will definitely slow down when it comes to making connections with people, instead of just, you know, taking a step back and dealing with people on an individual basis and not, you know, group us all to being the same. Because with Claudia Johnson, I feel like, again, I think we should really be sensitive to the fact that there's so much more to it than her career. Again, I don't feel like people pursue things they can't be successful at, and people won't admit that, because I'm sure she's been dating here and there, but it's just like, a lot of people don't have the right language to communicate. They can't actively listen. Just the basic. They're not emotionally available. And just because, you know, a person is female, does not mean that they're emotionally emotionally intelligent. And so we look at women to be, just because you're a woman, that you're supposed to have all these things in place. You're supposed to be nurturing. You're supposed to be caring. And, you know, you're supposed to know how to cook. And, you know, it's just like, no. I think when we stereotype people to be a certain way, I feel like we become disappointed because we're not always getting what we want, as opposed to just kind of dealing with people on a one-on-one basis, you know, as individuals, and not kind of glump us all together.
I would agree with that to a degree. I mean, think about it. Men want something, women want something, right? And it's interesting because I hear these back and forth a lot about how men want these old school values in women, and then women will come back and say, well, if you want that, that's what we want out of men. But that's not really what they want. They want, it's like this hybrid thing, right? Like, you know, you and I talked about this. I knew when I met my wife that I was going to marry her. I knew this just from God's told me, right? But I also knew too, and I had to have this conversation with my wife. I was like, look, there's some non-negotiables for me. I want 3 children, and I'm saying to you, I want to marry you because for me, at the top of my list, and people might say this is crazy, I want a woman who can cook, because I'm very old school in that sense.
Okay.
Like, right. I knew, I was like, I'm willing to take care of my household. I'm willing to do all these things. I'm not going to ask you to cut the grass. I'm not going to ask you to do these things typically a man would do. I'm going to do these things. But as a woman, I'm looking for a woman that can clean, make sure my house is clean, make sure my kids are taken care of, make sure that she can cook. Because I'm one person, I like eating out a whole lot. I like to eat out, but I love home cooked meals because they demonstrate to me that you love me. Like you took the time to make this meal, you thought about it, you put it together, all these little things. And I think a lot of men, I don't want to say a lot of men, but I think there are enough men out here who probably think the same way, and they want some of the same things. Here's the dilemma. How do we bridge this gap, Nneka? Because that's really what you and I are called to do, right? Because we're saying we want to see people in healthy relationships.
Yeah.
It can't be that you just want to be in a relationship with me because I got money, or because I have resources, or because I can do something for you that you can't do for yourself. Like, I mean, you know, just take care of you wholeheartedly, and that's just it. Like, it's got to be more to how do we bridge that gap so that men feel like, you know, I'm not being taken advantage because of my resources, and women say I'm not being taken advantage of because it's my body, or whatever the case might be. How do we bridge that gap?
It depends on what stage you are. Like you said, a person in your 20s, there are certain needs that you have in your 20s.
Well, let's real quick. Let's deal with the ones in just that 40. Let's say 40 plus.
40 plus.
Yeah. Because that's a different group of women and different group of men, to be quite honest.
Yeah, you're right. So I think 40 and up, I feel like I would hope that we're at the stage in our lives where we can have really intentional conversations about what it is we want and not want. Because I don't think we're dealing with old school women or men. I mean, the whole gender roles, I feel like establishing where you are in your life and just having a healthy dialogue. I feel like we're putting, in general, I feel like people are making it too hard. And it's really not that hard. Now, if you come from a background where communication wasn't valued, emotional intelligence wasn't valued, you couldn't be vulnerable, the only emotion you can express is anger, then there's going to be some challenges there. And so we have to kind of acknowledge, like, where do you stand individually when it comes to problem solving, when it comes to, gender roles, just having the tough conversations. And I think sometimes people don't have those tough conversations. Like you said, you told your wife, listen, I want somebody that can cook. I don't like cooking, right? And I'll do it, but I don't enjoy it. So for me and my husband, we got to switch off. He got to cook some and I'm going to cook some. I do most of the cooking, but I don't like cooking. So I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to tell you, oh, I love cooking just to get you. Oh, I want 5 kids and I want 0. No, I am going to be honest. I want 0 kids. Now, I'm talking about me, and I don't like cooking. So I think if we can be honest with one another, and not kind of blow smoke up people's buttons, just to get the person, and then once you get them, you switch it up. No, be honest. Don't try to be what the person wants. No, be honest and see if you can actually. Because I remember I dated this guy. And I had said, I don't want to date nobody with kids. I was in my 20s. I don't want to date nobody with kids. Lied to me. Said he didn't have kids. Yes.
Whoa.
And he had 3.
Oh.
Had 3.
Jeez.
And I said, and I was in my mid-20s. And I said, and so he said, well, I didn't want you to discount me. I want you to get to know me first. I'm like, how can you not mention you got kids? How can you deny having kids? That was the end of that. 3. How can you deny that? So that was a wrap for me. Be honest. Don't try to trick me. That's not cool. So my thing is, be honest with people. It's as simple as that. We make it too complicated. Be honest. Say what it is that you really want. And don't be trying to, to gas people up to get what you want. Like, no, I don't want kids. And I don't like cooking. Now, I'll cook sometimes. So just say that. Sometimes I want you to take me out to dinner sometimes. On the weekends, I'm not cooking. I'm not, like for me, I'll make, I remember I had one of my best friends, her mother, we would sit in the kitchen while she would make her husband meals, lunch and all that. We would sit around the kitchen, just look at her, right? So she told me, she said, Nneka, don't start something you can't finish.
100% agree.
She said, if you ain't gonna cook every day, if you're not gonna make lunch, she said, I stay at home. I'm a housewife. So I'm doing this. She said, but you work. So, because I was about to get married, she said, so do not start something you're not going to finish. And I carry that with me daily.
Yep.
And it's just like, okay, so don't start something you can't finish. That is as simple as that, Michael. I just feel like there's no hidden, formula. No, communicate and be honest.
No, I would 100% agree with you. I live by that motto. I tell men all the time, don't start something you can't finish. Like if you start buying your wife these cars and you keep elevating her and you keep doing this, you've basically shown her that this is the lifestyle you want to give her or that you're going to provide for her. And you can't, once you start that, go backwards. That's not fair to her. Because guess what? You wouldn't want that as a man to go backwards, right? Purdy Birdie says this: most women who are good marriage material aren't very visible like Real Housewives. And this is probably a lot of the problem in that we see, because the market is so saturated with watching women like the Real Housewives, that it's a turn off to men. And this is where we get into a majority rules, right? Because this is what you see on television. So you probably think that women operate like this or men operate like this because this is a majority of what you see. You got 5 different reality shows. And all reality shows might be named different, but all the characters are the same. There's no difference in the characters. They're all the same. They're just different names on different shows. My dad used to say this, it's the same team, just different players.
That's it.
That's all this is. I want to get back to this because I see this, and I really want to help women understand something about men. And this is regarding Kevin Samuels again. A lot of things he said, I believe, were mainly true. I believe 90% of everything he said was true. 90, at least 90.
Woo!
At least 90.
Okay.
Here's what the problem was. The way that it was delivered was almost 98% horrible. Like the messaging was, the way he communicated to me was horrible. Some of the things he said, the way he said them, I thought they were horrible. Yeah. It wasn't the message. And a lot of times his message was clouded with the delivery of the message. So he would have something that was very, very meaningful, but he would cloud it with the way that he would say, oh, you too fat, or you ain't never getting married. I mean, like, we can't, like, come on, man. We don't want to, but I understood. And this is what I was telling you, Nneka, and this is what I want to share with women. That was purely entertainment. That's all that was for. A lot of times when you meet people after being on television, you realize they aren't the same people. Nneka, you've met a lot of people who are on television. They aren't the same people on television as they are in real life. That job, it's their job to be this demonstrative, right? It's their job to be this mean or this cruel or this cynical type of person on television, because people love cynicism. People love hate. People love to see people get dogged out for whatever reason. Human beings love that in entertainment. It goes all the way back to probably the beginning of time. You think about Roman Empire, what did they do for entertainment? They would have a lion chasing after a man to kill him and see how long he could live. Or two men to killing each other is till the death, right? Entertainment. It was crazy the way we did it. But I say this about Kevin Samuels, 90% at least of what he said. And one of the things I think he really wanted to get across to women, especially over 50 or 40, because we've been talking about women 40 plus, maybe even 50 plus, is that, you know, if you don't want to die alone, because he mentioned this a lot, you're going to have to change up some of the ways that you think about dealing with men. And you need to understand men from this perspective, not from what your grandmother said. I've heard a lot of women talk about the fact that they learned about men through their grandmothers. And I'm like, how much can you learn about men from your grandmothers then as opposed to grandfather? Because then now I start wondering, well, where's the grandfather? Or then where's the father? Or where's the uncle? If you really want to know about a man, you would talk to an expert. I would think that would be a man as opposed to a woman. You know, just like if I didn't understand something about a woman, I go to my wife. I go to my wife all the time for women advice because of the industry that I'm in, right? And I don't want to do something like I was telling you before. She gave me she's given me many nuggets, many nuggets. But one of the nuggets she gave me that I hold on to, and I make sure that I pay attention to this in every single interaction I have with a woman. One, I try to make sure that I keep it business, right? I'm not bouncing above the line. I'm not bouncing below the line. I'm staying right at the line, right? I'm making sure that this is business, period. Because I know that if I say one wrong word, or if I speak or talk to you too long, or if I look at you and you maybe a certain way that you think, or you might interpret it as me interested. So I got to be careful. Like I told you, Nneka, when we at Silver Foxes, we know when we take pictures with women, there's a couple questions. I was like, okay, first of all, do you mind me putting my arm on your shoulder? Is it on your waist? Where do you want it? Because I'm not going below there. Because some women say, no, put your hand on my ass. Or put your hand this or that, whatever. Oh, yeah. Oh, I don't want to get into that. But they'll tell you. And sometimes they won't even tell you. They'll just move your hand down to the, oh, yeah. Look, Nneka, I can tell you some story. But in any event, the thing being, I have to know how to deal with you. The nugget was, Michael, be careful on how long you talk to a woman, because some women think because you talk for more than 2 minutes, you're in love with them. You're theirs now. It doesn't matter that you're married. Just be very careful. Be careful in what you say. Everything you say matters. So think about what you're going to say before you say it, because some women who don't have a man, who are looking for a man, have already made up in their minds, if he does or says this, that's it. And I'm like, how do women, if I say hello to you, that means I love you? All I was doing was speaking to you. I wasn't trying to pursue you. I just saying hello to you because you crossed in my path, right? And so she's giving me these type of nuggets. But with Kevin Samuels, his nuggets were, women, listen, if you're planning to not be like a Tracy Ellis Ross, if you're not planning to be like a Claudia Jordan, and you don't want to find yourself alone, nobody's telling you not to pursue your career. Absolutely pursue your career. But if you want to deal with, man, this is how you have to do it. Most men who have means, they don't care about how much money you make. We don't. That's never crossed our minds. Why? Because we have money already. Or because most men with means have money. They have access to resources. So those things, a woman can't impress a man with those things. But if you want to impress a man, and you talked about this, Nneka, that old school way, that very feminine, that very beautiful way that you speak. Women don't realize the power that they have over men. Some women, I don't know if they don't know it, they've not been taught it, but women have been put on this earth. They have a power that they possess that men absolutely adore. It's almost like a Pied Piper almost. If you learn how to use those skills well, where you're not always argumentative or combative, raising your voice, none of those things are necessarily wanted by any man I know. I don't know a man who wants to be yelled at. I don't know a man who says, because I make more money than you, it has to be like this. You know, those things are crazy. So there's some things you can do with men, and there's some things you can't do. And those are just some little tidbits he was given. Now, again, I will agree. I don't think the way that he messaged it, the way that he said it, delivered it, it wasn't right at all. It was, oh my God, I used to cringe sometimes. I'm like, man, Kevin, why did you say that way? You were doing so well. That message was so, but I understood too, yeah. Nneka. He had something like, before he died, 3.2 million followers on YouTube. He had like over another million on Instagram, another 2 million on Facebook. So, and the crazier part, Nneka, the man's audience was 90% women.
Wow.
Over week. And when you look through his comments, most of the comments were from women, whether they were mad about something he said or they were happy about something he said.
Yeah.
But he spoke to them, and in a way that some people, didn't get, some did get. But I want people to understand it was really purely entertainment. That's what it was for. That's what he did. And clearly the numbers don't lie.
Yeah. But I really don't want us to, I think the Claudia in her, expressing why she didn't get into a relationship earlier, I just don't think that's it. And I really want to hit this home. You mentioned Tracy.
Really?
Yeah, I think it's so much more than that. I just really feel like a lot of times we're not pursuing relationships based on what we've seen in our past. Think about Tracy Ellis Ross.
Mm-hmm.
Diana Ross has been married quite a few
4 times, 5 times.
Yeah. And so you have that as an example. It makes you, and although you may not say that on the surface, but I really believe deep rooted, when you see that, it makes you afraid. When my parents divorced, it made me shy about being in a relationship because I felt like divorce was hereditary. I felt like, okay, this is going to happen. So people won't say that out loud, though. Mm-hmm. I was saying that out loud. Not that, I'm just the authority on all women and why they are, older women who are not in relationships. But I feel like there's so much, I think sometimes we just hang out in the surface area too much. And when we hang out in the surface area, you talk about, Michael, like bridging that gap. Let's be real honest. Let's have real conversations why you didn't get into a relationship early and you just singularly focused on your career, because guess what? That's what you were good at. And you could deliver. You knew you could make that 7 figures. But you know what? My example with my parents, in general, that's what people say. They didn't see successful relationships, so they're not pursuing that. I really wish people could really be honest about that. So people kind of tuck that away a little bit. They're not being honest because, again, you can say it's about your career, but is it really about a career? It's so much more.
Well, okay, I'll go with you on that. But here's what I don't understand about that argument you just made. Mm-hmm. So now she's literally saying, I want a relationship. Like, I want to be in relationship with someone. And she laid it out. She was like, I'm tired. I don't want this lifestyle anymore. Like, and it was almost like she was saying, this is something I thought I wanted. Like, I thought I wanted to make all this money and do all this. But something I didn't factor in was, I want somebody to share this with. And now at 52 years old, I'm struggling because I don't have that. And you could tell she really wants this. She really wants to find someone to be in partnership with her, or be in a serious relationship with her, or even be in marriage with her. She's now looking to have that. And I see a lot of women at this stage who are at that point. They're like, I really want this. Now in my 20s, they were like, I did all this other stuff. I was chasing my career. And I think it sounded like to me, this is why I'm saying this, it sounded like to me she was being honest. She was like, honestly, that was what I wanted. But today, not to say that she still doesn't want, she doesn't want, and this is might be right. Kenneth just said she needs a companion. And that's something I want to talk to you about as well. But it sounded like to me, she wanted more than a companion. She wanted to be in relationship, possibly marriage. And she even said I think she froze her eggs, right?
I'm not sure.
I think she said she's frozen her eggs. And she said that she was still fertile, but she wasn't just going to go out and get pregnant now by any old body just to get pregnant. But that, that could still be even a possibility I think that's too, I think that's, Ooh. I know, I think that's dangerous to do that at this age.
My opinion is selfish because I just feel like, to each his own, but how much longer you're going to be around that kid and be able to run around and do all
100%. I agree with you. For all of those reasons and a whole lot more, I agree with you. But it just sounded like to me that she was being honest in the fact that, maybe, and she did talk about this a little bit. She said that she was suffering from daddy issues.
That's what I'm saying. Right? Yeah.
She did say that. So to your point, you're right. So there was some other things going on, but she now was saying, I want to be in a relationship. And this is where I want us to focus. How do we help women? Because we want to talk about the men. So ladies, please don't get mad at me right now because we're just focusing on women. How do we help women get to a place where they are not, and this, I'm going to say this, Nneka's not saying this, ladies, I'm saying it, where some of you are just delusional about maybe the type of man that you're pursuing. Because some of the things that I see, I'm like, there's a good man, and she said this too, there's a good man over there, but he might not be all of the things that you listed, but he might have 7 of the 10 things, but you're saying, no, it's got to be this guy over here. And I'm not saying don't get or try to get as close as you can to what you want, but I'm saying understand reality, or in reality, you may not be able to get this guy. This guy's not looking for you, right? Where this other guy over here, he will tear the world up for you. Why look by him when this guy ain't going to pay you no attention? He might do all these other things for you just to get to you, but this guy actually wants you. Claudia said she didn't want to have a baby because, and I was like, wow, this is really real. She said, I don't want to have a baby because I want a man who's going to be in love with the idea of wanting to have a baby, to take care of the baby, to raise the baby, to nurture the baby, and so forth and so on. I don't want to just have a baby just to say I have a baby, which I thought was great. I loved hearing her say that, right? Where some women, they do it just to go along and get along and say, okay, I have a baby. I'm checking off the list. Okay, I got a husband, I got a baby. She said, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing any of those things. I'm going to do what makes sense for me. But my point is, I think women have to start being more reasonable and saying, maybe that type of guy I've been pursuing for 10 years, he ain't pursuing me. Why don't I go look over here? I mean, Nneka, think about it. If we did anything else for 10 years and we weren't successful, going back to your analogy, we wouldn't do it. We just stopped doing it. We're going to do the thing that we're successful at. Like, I'm going to just focus over here because I'm successful over here. But if you've not had any success with these men over here, what would make you say, I'm just going to keep doing this? Only insanity would say that, because that's the literal definition of insanity, is to do something over and over again, get the same result, and keep doing it again.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, I agree. We got to date differently. That's why when they have like the love is blind and, you don't see the person, you kind of fall in love with their heart and, story without seeing them. I think that's a great concept, because I feel like and I get men are visual and women, we like things, pretty on, we want to see good looking things too. But, yeah, I would agree that we do have to date differently. I don't think you should settle, but when I say different, I'm not saying, instead of, you may not want to, I don't want to be mean, but you may not.
Put it out there, Nneka. Come on, say it.
Yeah, you may not want to date the sanitation worker. You may not want to date that person, right? So, and you are making 6 figures. You may not. I mean, that's just the reality. Just like what Kevin said, I get it. You may not want to date that person, but yeah. So dating differently, not settling.
Yeah.
But dating, open your pool up. I mean, even dating outside your race.
Yeah.
Some people, growing up, I've never dated outside my race. I didn't know at the time it was an option, right? So I just stayed in my lane. Um,
Right.
Most of my girlfriends, we just stayed in our lanes because we didn't know it was an option until you start getting older. You start seeing that, oh, okay, people are mixing races or what have you. So dating differently can mean that too.
I love that you said that because I didn't know how to put words to it or language to it, but dating differently, that's it. That's the language I think that we might want to focus on, to where it's not you having to necessarily compromise. It's you negotiating and saying, you know what, I understand this, and reality says this, right? That man is not looking for me. He isn't. But the sanitation worker, he is. I don't know if I've ever shared this with you, Nneka, but there's a friend of mine. He died some years ago. God rest his soul, Harry. Harry Jackson, as a matter of fact, one of my very good friends. Taught me a lot. He's a lot older than I was, like a big brother to me. And I remember this guy, Nneka, didn't graduate from high school, didn't have a high school diploma. He was the most loving person as a man you could come across. His wife, when he got married, this woman was deep into six figures, right? Didn't know how to put gas in her car, really didn't know how to wash clothes, definitely didn't even know how to cook. Why? Because Harry did all those things for her. He made sure, I remember one time she was telling me, this is after he died, she said, Michael, I'm so distraught because I don't even know how to put gas in my car. I've never put gas in my car. Every time my gas was low, Harry would always take my car to the gas station. They owned, I think it was 4 or 5 properties. She's like, Michael, I only go to the properties with Harry because Harry takes care of all of the properties. All I do is take care of the money part. That's it. Yeah. And what she said, which blew my mind, I was like, I wish all people could get this, not just men, not just women, but everyone. She was like, we know our lanes. I'm good at making money. Harry isn't. But you know what Harry is good at? Taking care of me. So he takes care of me. I take care of the money, and we take care of each other. And I was like, it was amazing. It was just every day he met her. I remember I was at his house one day and we were eating dinner and she was on her way home and he called and said, hey, how far away you are? Because I want to make sure when you come home, your food is ready and it's warm and it's on the table for you when you come in. When she came in, we were there. So we all had to stand up and greet her. When she came in, he kissed her, greeted her. She sat down. Now check this out now. She sat down. He fixed her plate for her. When she was done, he took her plate off the table, washed all the dishes, put all the stuff up. That woman didn't touch none of that stuff.
They different. Yeah.
They different. And I thought when I saw that, I said, if I told somebody, they wouldn't believe that this was actually happening.
Wow.
And like I said, when he died, it was such a culture shock for her because she was like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. Wow.
Right. And my point being, if you could get a man like that, why does money matter? Why does when a man comes to the table and he has to make 6 figures, he has to make that? If he's taking care of you, why is that the case? Maybe you have to think about dating differently. Maybe he's not making 100,000, maybe he's making 60, but he's good at all these other things. And guess what? Maybe you can help him earn more money. Maybe you can teach him some things that you've learned, right? Or go in business together and then do something to help him bring his earning potential up. And I rarely hear women say that. And I mean, I think I shared this with you as a college student. I was a struggling college student. So my wife helped me all throughout college.
Well, you're college. So you expect at this age though, you're thinking about retirement. You're thinking about so many different things. And I'm not, we need our sanitation workers, and I'm saying it's nothing wrong with being a sanitation worker. Mm-hmm. I feel like women, we carry a lot of education. That doesn't mean we have the money, but we carry a lot of education. Yeah, it doesn't always mean we have the money to go along with it. But sometimes some women are about status. That's important for some women, status, and so that can get in the way too. Yeah, that a Claudia Jordan or Tracy Ellis Ross, among other things. Mm-hmm. I think there's a whole lot of things that kind of get in the way of people settling down. And for some reason, though, Michael, I feel like some people just don't really want to be in a relationship because they create all these obstacles. They say they want to be in a relationship,
but they really don't.
You really don't. Because if you did, I'm not saying you would settle, but you would kind of you would date differently. You would be more open. So when I hear, people say, oh, I want to be in a relationship, I'm like, no, you don't. You don't. You know, if you really wanted to be in a relationship, then you would,
I agree with you. And that you just said, that makes so much sense. Let me just real quick. Kenneth said, and I'll let you do this and I'll go second. Kenneth says, what is settling?
What is settling?
Yep.
For me, settling would have been dating a man that didn't know God. That would have been settling.
Okay.
I didn't care that I didn't marry my husband because he was an attorney. I'm like, oh, I got to marry me an attorney. Did not even, he just so happened to be one. But I would have married a blue collar. If somebody was good to me and they loved the Lord and they could provide, there was an exchange, I would have married them, but I married him. So for me, I'm not sacrificing. You would have to, if you were not a Christian, if you didn't know Jesus, no, that I'm not compromising that. That's important. That was important to me.
Now that you said that, because that was a great answer. Now, what do you think for most women, when we talk about dating now, what does settling mean?
Settling? Someone who may not be making a whole lot of money. Someone who can't provide. Someone that can't take them to 5-star restaurants and buy them, these expensive gifts. If that's what's important to you. But again, to me, that's not a woman that really wants to be in a relationship. Because like you said, Michael, earlier, not everybody had that earning potential. They're not earning that kind of money.
No, not at all.
And so you're canceling out a whole lot of people. If you really wanted to be in one, not saying that you got to settle, but most women, that would be settling.
Yep, thank you. And I think that's what Kenneth was getting to. And I honestly agree with you. That's what settling, because I hear women say, I'm not going to settle. And then I say, well, okay, tell me what settling means to you. Well, he got to do this, I'm like, and I'm going to tell you what most men, when they hear that, the first thing, because we're visual, the first thing we look at is, wait a minute, you're not settling? And you weigh 400 pounds and I know you make all this money, but you want me to settle for you? Like, it's that kind of exchange there, right? And so this is why I say, I love your term, dating differently. You may have to reconsider what dating looks like.
Yeah.
And who you date. Because the guy who you keep saying you want, let's just be honest, you're never going to get him. Why do we say that? Because you haven't gotten him yet.
Right.
I mean, that's just the look. And this doesn't just go for a woman, this goes for a man. But I do believe that most men are more honest when it comes to this than women are. And I say that because I don't know too many men who are going to try to date out of their league. And I say that because most men are fearful of rejection. So they're not going to go after something. I think you were starting to talk about this a little bit because they aren't good at it. They're like, I'm not good at, this type of woman right here. This right here is just too difficult. I've tried it many, many, many times and it's never worked, or it's hardly worked at all. And so I'm not going to do it. So most men, they know they're not going to walk across a crowded club to the baddest woman in the club and say something to them unless they know for certain that they got all of their stuff together. They got their money right. They got their car right, their house right, because all of that stuff is going to matter more so for her probably than for him. Because he's like, look, I got all this stuff. Now things change when you got money. Because if you're a man and you're not that attractive, a lot of women overlook that. Men are like, oh, he fine, girl. You're like, wait, did you see the dude? Oh, he fine. That's the dude that make, and this is how they'll start with the he makes $7 million. He's the president of this. He does. They'll run down a whole list. Her and her girlfriends know for a fact. They're like, this dude looked like trash, but the only reason he's getting an opportunity is because he got money.
He got deep pockets, huh?
He got very deep pockets. I mean, we've seen it on all these housewives shows, right? These women do all this stuff, and then they get married to the guy, and 2 years later they divorce from him, but they didn't took, all this, that. So yeah, I think the dating differently thing has to become more of an option. Maybe not even an option, right? It has to be your go-to. Oh, yeah. Like at 40 and 50 years old, because what's the alternative? Stay lonely or adjust how you date. Date differently. Yeah. You don't have to adjust how you think.
Yeah.
Adjust how you think.
Yeah.
So listen, this was great. I so enjoyed talking to you about this. We got to get into the Kevin Samuels more because I know you're like, ugh. But I do believe his messages were on time. The way he delivered them, they were horrible. They were horrible.
Yeah, I just feel like I said, I think there's a danger in, for lack of a better term, in just hanging out in the surface area. I can't stress that enough as a mental health therapist. There's I think it's irresponsible in general for women and men not to really, when we talk about daddy and mommy issues, how that really how that plays out and how you are in a relationship, how you, what's the exchange and how you show up. And I really feel like that's a big part of it. And I feel like people can't necessarily get where they need to be because they're not really digging a little deeper and understanding themselves. It's easy just to say, oh, it's my career. But no, I feel like it's so much deeper than that. I'm going to always hold to, people don't pursue things they can't be successful at. So they're singularly focused, like, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm pursuing. And then they get to an age where now you're not desperate, but you're in survival mode. Oh my gosh.
It's the same difference, Nneka. That's the same difference.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's the truth though. Like you said, we got to be honest, right? And to be honest, sometimes it takes someone coming to see someone like yourself, a mental health professional, because you're struggling in this area and you don't know how to get out of this thing, right? You're in this rut and you're saying, hey, I'm struggling in my dating life. Like the men I'm trying to pursue, the women I'm trying to pursue, they're just, something's not happening. Like, I don't know what's going on. And it takes someone like you to sit on the couch with them to explain and say, look, you may have to date differently. It's not settling, but it's understanding what you can get, what's available to you, because this is all that's available to you. And if you're saying you want a relationship, you will do this. Otherwise, you just sitting there talking. You don't really want a relationship. You saying you want a relationship. You don't want a relationship. You're just saying you want a relationship.
Yeah.
And so, they need people. And I want to encourage, I always do this at the end of the show. I always want to encourage people to come see someone like yourself who can help them work out these issues, because nobody wants to die alone or lonely. None of us want to do that. Not a single person. I don't know if you got best friends or whatever the case is, but no one wants to do that. No one wants to die alone. But a lot of these women are finding themselves in these situations now because they won't entertain dating differently. I love that you said that. I'm gonna use that a lot. They won't entertain that. They're just like, no, I would never entertain that because that means it's compromising. No, that's not compromising. That's dealing with reality. Right. Reality says you must date differently. Now you must date like this. When you were 30 and pretty and this and that and that and the other, you could do all of those things and no one said a single thing to you. That's not today. Today, that pool has shrunk on you and you need to think about dating differently. So some men who were not in the pool, you may have to let them in and at least check them out. Check them out and they kind of go, and this is for men as well, but we're talking about women on tonight. So yeah. In any event, Nneka, we're out of here. This is it. We're at the end of the show.
Oh, it goes too fast.
Yeah. I want you to go ahead and then I'm going to come behind you with the closing piece tonight, if you don't mind.
No, I think I said, like I said, I'm just going to echo what I've been saying. It's just like, I don't feel like we should hang out in the surface area. I feel like I think Claudia needs to really be honest about the other things that kept her from getting in a relationship. Because I really feel like what we've seen growing up can really, discourage us from being in relationships. So we don't feel like we can be successful at them. So we don't pursue them. But I feel like if that is the case, we need to look deeper within and saying, what do I need to do for myself to kind of get me to a place where I can be?
You froze up, Nneka. Okay. So Nneka fell off. Not sure what happened. But I would just sum up what she was saying. And that is, if you really are honestly want to be in a relationship, you will think about, or at least entertain, dating differently. And sometimes you got to look beyond, some of the surface things and look, because there may be some other things going on with you that, you're not dealing with, that you're not addressing as well, which could also be a problem. We do know, and Nneka said this, that a lot of times we won't pursue things we aren't good at. That's for anything in life, whether it be education or relationship. That is definitely the case. But in any event, We want you to go see someone who can help you work through these issues and help you get to the place where you eventually want to be. This is Mike Johnson from the Mandatories Podcast with Mike Johnson. Nneka is my co-host. Oh, let me just bring her back in.
I'm sorry.
Hey, Nneka, that's okay. I was just about to close it out. I was just saying, I'll do this and I'll let you finish. Thank you for joining us on tonight. We had a great time. This is Mike Johnson from the Mandatory Conversations Podcast with Mike Johnson. Tonight, my co-host, Nneka J. Owens, who's with me every Monday as we deal with relationship issues. Thank you again for joining us. Please spread the word. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to this channel. Yes. We need you to help the message grow. We are here to help in relationship building. We want to see you in a relationship that is thriving, that is growing, that is beautiful. We want to help you. We want to help you. We want to help you. So please do us a favor and let people know we are out here. And I'll turn it over to my co-host, Nneka, to close us out. She's back.
Well, I think you did a great job, my guy. Like I said, I think, again, I want to just kind of, clap for, the fact that you are so consistent with these. I mean, you work so hard, guys. If you guys knew, behind the scenes, Michael is making sure he gets the topics. He's researching.
Yes.
He's getting topics that can generate a lot of good conversation, and that helps us all to kind of look within. So, Michael, thank you so much for being consistent and providing these, because this works. So that's why y'all got to like, comment, and share his channel, because he works very hard to make these, time away from your family.
Yeah, I don't want to say just me. I appreciate that, but it's us. We both work at this.
Right,
this is something we're both working in. So I want to make sure that we get it all right here. We're both doing work here. So yeah, but I do appreciate that. And I definitely work hard at this because I believe in what we're doing. Yes. Right. I believe in helping people get to a place where they can get into a relationship and they flourish in a relationship. That's and right. Before they get to a relationship, do all the things necessary so they'll be a great human being to someone else. But there's a lot of times we got to work through some things because we're just not great human beings, or we're not ready for relationships. So to get us ready and prepared for relationships. So
be honest.
Yes.
Be honest.
Be very honest. Be very honest.
Yourself. Stop pointing the finger at everybody else. It's just like, look at self. That's the only person you can change.
Exactly. Listen, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We're gonna get out of here. Nneka, thank you so much.
Hey, thank you.
We will be back next week, God willing, on next Monday, 7 p.m. Look for us. Thank you again. Don't forget, please like and subscribe. Share this with folks if you like this content. And also, too, by the way, if you want us to discuss something we have not yet discussed or talk about, please let us know. We would love to figure out what it is you want to hear, because this is all about you and getting the conversation started that other people won't talk about. And be honest and real. All right. Yes. Thank you, guys.
Bye.